Hello students, welcome to the answer writing program. So today we will be discussing 3 questions from GS3 agriculture portion, and the topics are issues related to direct and indirect farm subsidies, MSP, PDS, its objectives, functioning, limitations, its revamping, some issues with respect to the buffer stock and food security, technology missions, economics of animal rearing. And the second topic from the main syllabus is food processing and related industries in India, scope and significance, location, upstream and downstream requirements, and supply chain management. So let's see the 3 questions overview. The first question is related to the food processing industry. The second question is related to the technology in Indian agriculture. The third question is related to the requirement for the second green revolution. So let's start with the very first question. The first question says that we need to discuss in what ways the food processing industry can be a game changer for the Indian agriculture. So the question is asking about the potential of food processing industries with respect to Indian agriculture. So for that, first we need to see the supply chain, or we can say the value chain with respect to the agriculture sector. So for that, there is a production unit. For that, we need some inputs like seeds, fertilizers, irrigation, labor, land, etc. Then we produce our crops. Then there is a post-production aspects. With related to post-production, we have storage, we have transportation, then marketing, and there is a market where we sell our products. So this is the value chain or the food chain, or with respect to the agriculture supply chain. So if you know this, then where are the loopholes in the Indian agriculture sector, like with respect to the inputs, with respect to some production, with respect to the post-production or post-harvest, we can say. If we know that what are the different issues or the challenges with respect to the each portion of the Indian agriculture, then we can easily tackle any of the new technologies or the new infrastructural development, that how it is catering or how it is helping in the reforms of the challenges wherever they are in the agricultural supply chain. So with respect to the food processing industries, we know that the post-production or the post-harvest, we know that there are the huge post-harvest losses. We have the lack of storage capacities. So these are the issues with respect to this chain, and that is why if we have something over here, so that it can reform, it can correct these issues or the challenges, then this supply chain will be more valuable, it is more income generated, it is more beneficial for all, like with respect to the government, with respect to farmers, with respect to the consumer. So here comes the FPI, food processing industries. It means we have the storage issues. So instead of putting it in the warehouses or the storage capacities, what if we process our food, whatever we are producing, if we send it to the food processing industries, so as to reduce the post-harvest losses, so as to increase the shelf life of the products. So this issue would be manageable then. So food processing industries are the industries that processes the food so as to reduce the post-harvest losses and to increase the shelf life of the product. So this would be the definition you can write in the introduction. Now let's see what is the positive impact that we are reducing the post-harvest losses or we are increasing the shelf life. It means the very first thing is we are left with more food to sell, more food to consume because there are the less losses, or we can say we have removed the losses of the post harvesting. Now we have the increased amount of the foods that is being left to sell. It means it is increasing the farmer's income. And if we have the more food to consume, it means we are ensuring the food security. Okay, so the first two benefit, that how it can be the game changer for the Indian agriculture, is these two. So we need to see the whole supply chain, the value chain. That is why we do not need to cram or memorize that what is the potential of the food processing industry. Instead, we by our own should come up with these points. Okay, so the very first is we have the more food left with us to sell. We have the more food to consume. The very third thing is about that physical infrastructural development is there. When we are establishing the FPIs, it means we are establishing the industries, the food processing industries. It means we are generating the physical infrastructure. Means we are doing the capital expenditure for the formation of physical capital. Okay, so we have seen in the previous videos also that whenever there is a physical infrastructure development, or we are doing the capital expenditure with respect to the capital formation, what it does is increasing the demand, increase in employment opportunities, and the private sector crowding. The crowding of private sector. We'll see this part also here only. Then the fourth is about the rural industrialization. Okay, and the fifth is about the crop diversification. Now we are establishing the new units of the new physical infrastructure. It means it is providing the employment opportunities for skilled and unskilled labor. They would be requiring these labors. So for that, unskilled is easily provided. But for the skilled labor force, we can provide the training. We can provide the skill developmental facilities. Okay. And with respect to the crowd-in facilities, private crowd-in facilities, like how? See, if we are establishing, like let's take an example that government is establishing one food processing industry. So for that, other ancillary industries will also come in. Like how? If we are generating over there food processing industry, then the other industries like the grading, packaging, sorting, some other industries like the input, food, sellers, manufacturing of equipments, units. So all these industries would also come in, like the formation of the roads, logistics facilities, logistics capabilities will increase. So with the generation of the one unit, other ancillary facilities would also come in and increase in the industrialization of the rural communities. So the win-win situation for both, for the rural communities, for the farmers' income, for the country's GDP, economic growth. Then comes the crop diversification. Crop diversification means now we know that the farmers know that I can sell my products to the FPI. Now the farmer will not only solely be dependent on the MSP from the government. He has not under any obligation that okay, now because I just have the opportunity or I just have the choice to sell my products to the MSP, or the government is giving the MSP to me, now I can have only option to produce the wheat and the rice. No, now this is not the case. Now the farmer also knows that whatever I can grow according to the demand of the market, according to the niche products demand of the market also, because there are the facilities like FPIs are there, so my produce will not be rotten in the warehouses, or because I am growing on the demands of the market, not only on the governmental purposes. So I have the huge market opportunities in front of me because I can supply my produce to the FPIs. So the farmer will diversify their crop production because now he knows that he has the multiple opportunities to sell his product in the market via FPI. So this will also increase the market diversification or the crop diversification. And with respect to all these prospects, there is an increased exports facilities also, increased market demands. So this is how the FPI can generate the ecosystem where the farmer's income would be enhanced, the food security aspects would be increasing, there would be increased employment opportunities, there will be the development of the rural community, rural industrialization would be there. Not only the monoculture practices would be reduced, instead the crop diversification would be emphasized with the advent of this food processing industries. So these are various aspects of how this can be the game changer for the Indian agriculture. Okay, so these are the body points we have already discussed via this, all these detail. We have already discussed these points. You just go through it. Then finally, in conclusion, what we can write? We can write some governmental initiatives. How? Like Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana, Pradhan Mantri formalization of micro food processing enterprises. That government is focusing on the formalization of micro food processing enterprises so as to increase the food processing industries facilities in India. Then comes with the production linked incentive scheme, and also you can write that to fulfill the aim or the vision of Viksit Bharat by 2047, we know that 7 Saptarishi missions or the targets or the priorities, you can say, in that infrastructure and investment is there. And if we can use this infrastructural and investments in the agriculture sector, how we can increase our GDP, our economic growth prospects. Okay, so this way you can end your conclusion. Moving on to the model answer, starting with some definition by putting some data, then potential of the food processing industry, then coming on to the conclusion via writing some initiatives with respect to the government. Okay, moving on to the next question. Coming on to the second question. Technology has the potential to augment the farmer's income and unpredictable climate patterns. We need to discuss this. Means we need to write that how technology in the various dimensions, in the various aspects with respect to agriculture. Means the technology, how could technology helps with respect to the agriculture in the different dimensions, like with respect to the irrigation, with respect to the soil management, with respect to the farm mechanization, with respect to the farm software system. So we need to write the multiple dimensions as the keyword is discuss. Okay. So starting with the introduction, what you can write in introduction, because the question is asking about the unpredictable climatic patterns. So you can write that how Indian agriculture is dependent on the climate and how the technology can help in reducing those vulnerabilities which can be imposed by the climatic patterns or the variations in the climate pattern. Like you can write that the Indian agriculture mostly is the rain-fed agriculture, and any variation in the climate like erratic rainfall, extreme weather events, El Nino, erratic precipitation patterns with respect to the monsoons can impact negatively on the Indian agriculture and the people, their livelihoods who are dependent on the Indian agriculture, and how technology with its various dimensions, like whatever we have discussed, like with respect to the checking of the moisture level, with respect to the managing the farm activities, how it can help in reducing those vulnerabilities which the agriculture is facing due to the climate change. Okay, you can put some data also that in last 6 to 7 years, the country has lost 33.9 million hectares of the cropped land due to the floods and excess rains, and approximately 35 million hectares due to the drought. It means how this climatic patterns, the unpredictable climatic patterns has impacted the arable land facilities on which the agriculture is dependent. Okay, so moving on to the main body part, that how technology based farming is a way to tackle these climatic unpredictabilities and increase the farmer income. Again, we can make some flow chart with respect to this, that how the technology in the various different dimensions with respect to the agriculture, from sowing to the harvesting, how the technology can help in reducing those vulnerabilities and increasing the farmer's income. Okay, so how the supply chain of the agriculture starts, like first is in selection of crops, then we sow the crops. Now we can see the grown or the matured crops. Then we harvest the crops. Okay. Then in all these overall managing the various farm activities. And after harvesting, selling of the crops. Okay. So how technology can help in all these dimensions now? We need to see this. The very first thing is about the selection of crops. If we have the technology that this is the crop, this is the soil quality, these are the climatic patterns in this particular region, so you should select this crop. This crop is very suitable for this particular climate and the soil structure in this particular area. So if we know this, then we are promoting the climate smart agriculture. Means we are not just randomly checking or selecting the crops, like we can bar from selecting the crops of the paddy in the drought prone region. Otherwise our crops will fail, reduce the farmer's income, increases the vulnerability of the farmers and the agriculture towards the climatic patterns. So we should avoid that. Instead, according to the climate, according to the soil structure, we need to select the crops. And if we have some technology to weather forecast, for the weather forecasting, to check the quality of the soil, so this way this technology is improving the selection of the crop. So it means we are promoting the climate smart agriculture. In this particular part only, we need to promote the climate resilient crops, so that our whole produce will not be fail. Means if we are selecting the climate resilient crops that can withstand the drought prone conditions, it means they can flourish even in the scarcity of the rainfall. They will be flourishing. So again, in this, the technology will help in generating this climate resilient crops, the biotechnology, major research and development. So the technology to generate the climate resilient crop would increase the farmer income and would reduce the vulnerabilities to the vagaries of the nature. First aspect. Second is about sowing the crops. So we need to check the leveling of the soil, we need to check the nutrients of the soil, to check the moisture of the soil, and all these aspects are till here also, like to check the moisture, to check the nutrients, to check the soil quality. So for that we can take help from the sensors. The sensors would be there installed on the farms, or with respect to the satellites we can take help. So these sensors, what will they do? They'll check the moisture in the soil, they'll check the nutrients quality or the nutrients availability in the soil, they'll check the soil quality and will tell that this is the moisture level, this is the nutrient level, now you need to put this much amount. It means we as a farmer will not directly flooding our lands. We are not just putting the urea or the DAP or the phosphorus or the potash in just unregulated quantity, reducing the soil health. No, we are not doing that. Then with respect to the sensors, with the help of the sensors, what we are doing, we are measuring the moisture level, the nutrient level and the soil quality, and depending on that it is giving the measurements to put the moisture, the soil, fertilizers. Okay, so again, this is the technology helping in measuring all these aspects, all these measurements. Then next is about, okay, now we know that this much moisture is required in our land. Then how will we give? We will be giving with the drip irrigation. We will be giving with the precision irrigation. Again, this is the technological advancements. This is the technology. Means we are not just flooding our lands. We are using these new advanced technologies like drip irrigation, precision irrigation. This is the technology. Next is about the crops are grown. They are fully matured. Now, we should know that we should map our whole lands or whole fields, that this soil, this particular crop is good in health, but this particular crop is of the bad health. It means some disease or the pest attack has started from here. So instead of putting all the field under the treatment process, we will check this particular area of the land and will only do the customized treatment plan over here. And this can be done using the satellites, imageries and GPS. Satellite imageries and GPS. It means these satellite will surveillance the whole land and will tell that this particular patch of land has some disease or the pest attack. You do the treatment over there. So again, this surveillance, this mapping of the whole fields using the satellites, the imageries, the GPS and with respect to the drones. Again, this is a technology and this technology is helping in surveillance or the mapping of the land. Okay. Next is about harvesting the crops. Harvesting the crops using the harvesting or also the sowing of the crops using the autonomous farming equipments like the tractors who are self-driven. They will help in saving the manual labors also, will also tackle the shortages of the labor. So again, this new technology of generating this autonomous tractor equipments. Next is about selling of the crop. If we have the technology like some portal, that is GEM, Government E-Marketplace, where the farmer can directly sell their produce to the government. So again, this is a technological advancement. So the farmer now do not have any need to go to the mandis or to physically carry their products from one place to another. Instead, they can put their bid on the GEM portal and government will directly procure from there. Okay. Next is about overall management of the farm activities from like end to end, like selecting of the input crops, the fertilizers, at what rate the farmer has to select the fertilizer from what producer, everything, all these can be managed with respect to the new technologies, with respect to the IT, information technology, and with respect to this, government has come up with the AgriStack. This is a portal which can help the farmer from end to end activities. Okay, so these are the multiple dimensions where the technology can help the farmer to increase their income, to reduce the impact of the climatic vulnerabilities on the farm sector. Okay, so these are the points that we have already discussed in very much detail over here. So these are the same points which I have discussed. Then coming to the conclusion, we can write some recommendations or with respect to this, we can write some summary that you can write about the Ashok Dalwai committee related to this, his report, that he also, this committee has also appreciated the role of the digital technology which can play the transformational role in modernizing and organizing the agricultural activities in India. You can write just the brief about this, how Ashok Dalwai committee has also recognized the positive impacts of the digitalization of the farm activities. Okay. Moving on to the model answers, starting with some definition and how the Indian agriculture is dependent on the nature vagaries, then different aspects, different dimensions with some data, then finally asking, telling about the Ashok Dalwai committee recommendations only with respect to the digital technology. Okay. Moving on to the third question. Does India need a second green revolution? So this is the first demand. Now the second is discuss the challenges in its implementation. This is the second demand. And the steps taken by the government to promote second green revolution. So the first part is, does India need a second green revolution? For that, if we are answering that yes, India needs a second green revolution, then you can start your introduction with the green revolution. What are the major issues with respect to the green revolution? Then due to these issues, we need to come up with the second green revolution, and what are the different dimensions with respect to the second green revolution. And then we can write about the challenges with respect to the second green revolution implementation and the steps taken by the government to promote these second green revolution. As this is a 10-marker question, you can write this third part in the way forward. Okay. So, Green Revolution was the initiative that has come in the 1960s to revolutionize the Indian agriculture. Green Revolution. Revolution means some radical changes with respect to the agriculture in 1960s. What were those radical changes? Earlier, we were importing the food grains under the PL, Public Law 480 scheme from the US, United States. To ensure the food security with respect to the food grains in India, we were importing. So then we have come up with the Green Revolution to take a bar on this import and to make India self-sufficient in the food grains. We have come up with the Green Revolution. And what was it? It was about the introduction of the high yield variety seeds, increasing use of the fertilizers, pesticides, which leads to the self-sufficiency in food grains along with the increasing irrigation facilities. So this was the Green Revolution, and the main motive was to make India self-sufficient in the food grains. But to ensuring this self-sufficiency or to ensure the food security, we started doing some processes which has hampered our agriculture sector, like recklessly increasing the uses of fertilizers, pesticides, water, electricity, etc. And this has depleted the soil, this has depleted the water resources, and also this Green Revolution has changed the cropping patterns, like putting more focus on wheat and rice, and it has not only done the inclusive development. It did not do the inclusive development in terms of the farmers, because it has only benefited the large farmer majorly. With respect to the crops, only wheat and rice were promoted majorly, and with respect to the areas also, this has impacted the inclusive development. With respect to areas, like mostly it has benefited Punjab, Haryana, Western Uttar Pradesh. Okay, some regions of Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra. So these were some negative impacts of the Green Revolution. That is why we need second Green Revolution. Now what is second Green Revolution? Again, revolution means again we need some radical changes to ensure whatever we have done, the incorrected measures that have been taken in the first Green Revolution, we need to cure that. And also with respect to the climate change and extreme weather events and El Nino events, now the vulnerabilities of the Indian agriculture is also increasing. So to take care of all those aspects also, we need second Green Revolution. So what are the major key elements of the second Green Revolution? First is about, it will be focusing on the sustainability. It will be focusing on the inclusivity, inclusive development with respect to the farmers, with respect to the crops, with respect to the regions. So the main focus of the second Green Revolution would be increasing the farmers' income, especially the small and the marginal farmer, which are approximately 86% in India. Okay, with respect to the crops, we should divert from the rice and wheat. Instead, we should diversify them. And also, because of this climate change, extreme weather events, we should come up with the drought resilient crops. Next is about a region. It should be again holistic, inclusive in nature. So the second Green Revolution impact should be on overall India, not just a few patches of India. And also whatever the harms the first green revolution has done, we need to cure that. So we need to put the focus on the soil health conservation, we need to reduce our chemical usage, we need to increase the environmental sustainability or the agriculture sustainability, means the sustainable agriculture we need to promote. Okay, so this way you can start your answer. Coming up with the body, why we need the second green revolution. The very first thing we have already discussed, due to the failure of the first green revolution. So the excessive fertilizers or the pesticides use has led some regions like Punjab becoming the cancer capital of India. Like arsenic, uranium is much more in the Punjab and the Haryana region as compared to all the other parts of India. And also with respect to the more and more benefits of the green revolution has reaped by this particular region, the people are having the more money, and this money is diverted with respect to the drugs, with respect to the alcohol consumption also. So we need to take care with those aspects also. Next is about the climate change impact on agriculture. Earlier, the climate change was not the major factor in 1960s, but now we know that the reality of the climate change, it is negatively or hugely impacting the agriculture. So we need to take care for that also. So, and also we know that the Indian agriculture is a gamble on monsoon. It hugely depends on the monsoon rainfall. So for that we need to take care. We cannot just randomly sow the crops depending on the rainfall, but we need to put our focus on the climate resilient crop, climate smart agriculture. That is why we need the second green revolution, so that all the processes will be properly managed according to the climate, according to the availability of the different resources. Next is about need, because there is a need for changing the cropping pattern. Right now we are focusing majorly on the monoculture like rice and wheat. We are majorly focusing on it, has depleted hugely the soil and the land resources. So again we need to correct these harms. So we need to put more focus on the soil sustainability, agriculture sustainability and environmental sustainability. That is why we need second green revolution. Next is about again the farmers' income, because the first green revolution has increased the farmers' income, but only with respect to the few farmers. The major benefits of the green revolution was reaped by the large farmers. So all those small and the marginal farmers, that are approximately 85 to 86% in India, that did not tasted the benefits or the fruits of the green revolution. So we need to take care of all those farmers also. So we need to put our focus on the sustainability of the farmer livelihood as well. And this is the very major portion or the very important aspect of the second green revolution. Moving on to the what are the challenges if we are implementing the second green revolution and various dimensions with respect to the second green revolution. The very first thing is about the lack of mechanization. Our farm mechanization is less than 50% in India as compared to the China, which is much more. Next is about lopsided MSP policy. Again, India is continuing giving high MSP rates with respect to the rice and wheat. So farmers are continuously sowing those crops only. So the third is about the land fragmentation, increasing in population, increasing in the land fragmentation rate. Again, this poses impact for the intensive farm mechanization and also increasing challenges in the large scale interventions and the marketable surplus. Because increasing in population and increase in the land fragmentation, all these lands, whatever the farmers are sowing, the small and the marginal farmer, they are only sufficient for their self-consumption only. So there are very less marketable surplus to sell in the market. Next is issues with respect to the WTO. There are the Indian subsidies that the Indian government is giving to the farmers. Again, that have posed the challenges at the international fora like the World Trade Organization, where there are allegations on India by other countries that India is distorting the market rates by providing these huge subsidies. Next is about the steps taken by the government to push the second green revolution. First is about India is focusing on the sustainability. For this, India has come up with the National Mission on the Sustainable Agriculture, Organic Farming Initiative, Paramparagat Krishi Yojana, which is reducing the chemical fertilizers and the pesticides use. Next is about augmenting the farmers' income. The Indian government has come up with the PM Kisan scheme, which is giving 6,000 per farmer to use this 6,000 for their asset management or for whatever their consumptions needs are. Then adoption of the sustainable practices, like the Indian government is promoting the farmers, like via this scheme also, Indian government is aiming to provide some lump sum amount so that farmers will invest in their farms also with these lump sum amount, so that they can adopt the sustainable practices. Third is about incentivizing the shift in the cropping pattern, like from the monoculture to the diversification of the crops, like increasing MSP or including the different millets, different cereals under the MSP regime. Haryana's Mera Pani Meri Virasat scheme, it is providing 7,000 per acre if they plant the pulses, some cotton, maize instead of paddy. They are providing the 7,000 rupees per acre. It means they are helping in diversification of their cropping patterns. Okay. Next is about various state government and the central government is also providing the financial incentives for the crop alternatives. Finally, coming to the conclusion, you can write some summary. You can give some insight with respect to MS Swaminathan and his vision for the evergreen revolution, and aiming to the perpetual improvement in the agriculture productivity without causing any ecological harm. And this is all about the second green revolution only. The ecological sustainability, the sustainable agricultural practices. Okay, so this way you can write your conclusion. Moving on to the model answer, starting with some definition or background with respect to the green revolution, then need for the second green revolution, challenges and the steps taken by the Indian government to give a push to the second green revolution, finally ending with the vision of MS Swaminathan. Okay, so this was it from my side for today. Thank you and have a nice day and keep writing.